Hey guys, this is Mike Keenan here. Today we're going to talk about the network layer of the TCP/IP model, and also not only is it the network layer for the TCP/IP model, but it is the network layer for the OSI model as well. Both models, it is layer 3. The network layer provides the service to the layer above it, and if you remember in a previous video, the layer above the network layer is the transport layer. The transport layer, the protocol data unit for it is a segment. However, for the network layer, the protocol data unit for it is the packet. The most notable protocol at the network layer is the Internet Protocol, otherwise known as IP. In fact, if you look at TCP/IP, you'll notice that IP is in the title, with TCP also being in the title, TCP, if you remember from the previous video, being in the transport layer. So these are the two most common protocols that you'll run into as a network engineer. Another thing to keep in mind is that in a previous version of the TCP/IP model, the network layer was called the Internet layer. So you may see it referenced as the Internet layer here and there. So what happens is the transport layer takes the segment, sends the segment down to the network layer, and then the network layer will add headers to the segment from the transport layer. So the network layer will add a source and destination IP address along with some other metadata. So let's talk about IP addresses. IP addresses are 32 bits in length, and you can see them here. They're represented in binary, and they're also represented in decimal notation in this slide. So you'll notice here everything in the green is the network portion of the IP address, and everything in the blue is the host portion of the IP address. So up here in binary, you can see that it's 0000, 1010, and it's the same for the first three of these, what are called octets. So there's 4 octets total. And each one of these octets is actually 10 in decimal notation. And you'll see here that this is a 0, and in the blue, this is the host portion. So this is what is known. This is an example of a network address. But in order to understand this better, what we're going to do is use an analogy. We're going to use a geographic type of analogy. So we're going to say that we have a couple different people here. We have Bob, who lives in his home here, and the street that Bob lives on is going to be 10.10.10, and his home is going to be represented by the number 25. So that's his house address, and we're going to say that the first 3 octets, the first 3 numbers, is his street address. And of course, this is Bob. Now, Bob has an aunt that lives in the same neighborhood. We're going to say that her name is Sally. And her address is going to be different than Bob's. It's going to be 10.10.10. We're just going to say that it's 26. So now, if Bob wanted to send a letter to his Aunt Sally, just as you would in a normal setting, you would put a source address and a destination address. So a source address would be 10.10.10.25, and the destination address would be 10.10.10.26. And he would send that letter directly to Aunt Sally, and he wouldn't need any kind of intermediary service. He would just send it directly to Sally. And that's important to remember because let's say that Bob wanted to send a letter to somebody else that lived in a different neighborhood or a different city. Let's say Bob had cousin Ed, and cousin Ed lived in a different city. So we're going to say that cousin Ed lives in, let's give him his name. Let's say that cousin Ed lives in 192.168.1, and let's say that his house address is 50. Well, what would have to happen would be Bob would need to send it to a post office first, and we're going to say that the post office in this analogy represents a router. So this is the post office. So Bob would first he's going to realize that 192.168.1 is in a different neighborhood, in a different city. So what Bob's going to do is send it to the post office, which is a router. And a router is also referred to as a layer 3 device. As you can see down here, the network layer is 1, 2, 3. A layer 3 device. So Bob's going to send the letter. He's going to, with the information given to it from the transport layer, Bob's going to put a source and destination. He's going to encapsulate it in a packet, put a source and destination IP address on there. He's going to send it first to the router because he's in a different neighborhood. Ed's in a different neighborhood. He's in 192.168.1. Bob's in 10.10.10. So he's going to send it to the router, and then the router from there is going to forward the letter to Ed. And that's how routing works in a nutshell.
I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.